One played his lyre while Rome burned. The other declared himself a god and tried to make his horse a senator. Both ruled the most powerful empire on earth. Both died young, hated, and unmourned. But only one of them became a name that still means monster 2,000 years later. Tonight, Nero and Caligula, the two most infamous emperors in the history of Rome. Two completely different styles of imperial madness. One question: who was truly more dangerous? Welcome back to Evil versus Evil, Monsters of History. This is episode 8. Born in Antium, Italy, in the year 37 of the Common Era, Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, who would later be known to history as Nero, was the son of a notoriously cruel Roman senator, and Agrippina the Younger, the great-granddaughter of the first emperor Augustus. His father once said, on the day of Nero's birth, that any child of his and Agrippina's was destined to be a public disaster. He died when Nero was 2. Nero's mother spent the next dozen years scheming her way into the bed of her own uncle, Emperor Claudius, marrying him, and arranging for him to adopt her son as his heir. In the year 54, Claudius died at a family dinner. Most ancient historians believed Agrippina had poisoned him with a plate of mushrooms. 16-year-old Nero became Emperor of Rome. The first 5 years of his rule were unexpectedly stable, guided by the philosopher Seneca and the Praetorian commander Burrus. Nero presided over tax reforms, expanded the empire's borders, and was genuinely popular in the eastern provinces. But beneath the surface, a strange, obsessive man was forming. Nero believed he was destined to be remembered not as an emperor, but as an artist. He took singing lessons. He composed poetry. He raced chariots. He performed on stage, an act considered so scandalous for a Roman aristocrat that the audience was locked in the theater and forbidden to leave until he was finished. In the year 59, he had his own mother murdered. Agrippina had become too controlling. He first tried to drown her in a collapsing boat he had specially designed. She survived and swam to shore. He then sent assassins to her villa, who beat her to death. He attended her funeral and wept. In the year 64, the Great Fire of Rome broke out. Flames consumed 2/3 of the city. Ancient sources claim Nero stood on a tower of his palace and played the lyre while the city burned, a story modern historians believe was probably invented. What is certain is that, after the fire, Nero seized vast tracts of newly cleared land and built a sprawling personal palace called the Domus Aurea, the Golden House, with a 100-foot bronze statue of himself out front. To deflect blame from his own arsonists, he accused the small Christian minority in Rome of starting the fire. Hundreds of Christians were rounded up, dipped in pitch, and set on fire to provide light for his garden parties. According to tradition, the apostles Peter and Paul were among the dead. He kicked his pregnant wife Poppaea to death during an argument. He forced his old tutor Seneca to open his veins. He raised taxes across the empire to absurd levels to pay for his palaces. By the year 68, the provinces were in revolt. The Senate declared him a public enemy. He fled the city, hid in a friend's villa, and on June 9th, 68, drove a dagger into his own throat. His last words, allegedly, were, "What an artist dies in me." He was 30 years old. That was Nero. the emperor who burned his own empire trying to compose a song about it. Born in the same town of Antium, Italy, in the year 12 of the Common Era, Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus came into the world, the son of one of Rome's most beloved generals. As a child, he accompanied his father on military campaigns to Germania, wearing a miniature soldier's uniform. The soldiers nicknamed him Caligula, meaning little boots. The name stuck. He hated it. His childhood ended in horror. His father died, probably poisoned when Caligula was 7. The paranoid Emperor Tiberius had his mother starved to death in exile. His older brothers were tortured and killed. Caligula himself was held as a virtual prisoner at Tiberius' villa on the island of Capri, where, according to ancient sources, he witnessed orgies, executions, and acts of cruelty no child should ever see. In the year 37, Tiberius died, possibly smothered with a pillow by Caligula himself or his guards. 24-year-old Caligula became emperor. The Roman people, exhausted by Tiberius's paranoid reign, celebrated his accession as the dawn of a new age. The first 6 months of his rule were extraordinary. He pardoned exiles. He abolished hated taxes. He held lavish public games. He recalled the political prisoners his predecessor had imprisoned. He was hailed as the longed-for emperor. Then, in October of that year, he fell gravely ill. Some historians believe he had an attack of epilepsy. Others suspect a brain inflammation. Whatever it was, the man who emerged from his sickbed was not the same man who had entered it. He declared himself a living god. He ordered temples built in his own honor. He had heads of statues of Jupiter and Mars replaced with images of his own face. He began appearing in public dressed as different gods on different days. Sometimes Hercules, sometimes Apollo, sometimes Venus. He married his own sister Drusilla, then declared her a goddess after her death. He carried on incestuous relationships with his other sisters. He married and divorced 4 wives in 4 years. He had affairs with the wives of every senator he could find, sometimes summoning them from dinner parties to his bedroom while their husbands waited at the table. His cruelty became the stuff of legend. He had political rivals sawed in half slowly. He ordered prisoners fed to lions during games when the supply of condemned criminals ran low. He forced parents to attend the executions of their sons and then invited the parents to dinner immediately afterward. He famously declared his favorite horse, Incitatus, a consul of Rome, gave the horse its own marble stable, a staff of slaves, and invited dignitaries to dine with it. In the year 40, he marched the Roman army to the coast of Gaul, announced he would invade Britain, then ordered his soldiers to gather seashells from the beach as spoils of war. He built a temporary 3-mile-long pontoon bridge across the Bay of Baiae just so he could ride a horse across the sea wearing the breastplate of Alexander the Great. He bankrupted the imperial treasury within 2 years. He proposed making his horse a senator. On January 24th, year 41, 3 officers of the Praetorian Guard, led by Cassius Chaerea, ambushed him in a palace corridor and stabbed him 30 times. They then killed his wife Caesonia and dashed his infant daughter's brains against a wall. He was 28 years old. That was Caligula, the emperor who became a god in his own mind. Now let us put these two side by side. Category 1. Military reach and conquest. Nero's empire was vast but inherited. He expanded Roman control in Armenia, suppressed Boudicca's rebellion in Britain, but personally fought no major campaigns. Caligula commanded no major conquests either. His invasion of Britain was a farce of seashells. Neither man was a soldier. The edge here goes to Nero, by default, because he at least did not collect oceans. Category 2. Personal cruelty. Nero murdered his mother, his wife, his tutor, his stepbrother, and untold numbers of Christians. He was capable of months of cold planning. Caligula's cruelty was more spontaneous and creative. He had men sawed in half. He fed prisoners to lions for entertainment. He forced grieving parents to dine with him minutes after their sons' executions. Nero killed for advantage. Caligula killed for amusement. The edge is Caligula. Category 3. Political control. Nero ruled for 14 years and presided over 5 of the most stable years in Roman history before his collapse. He maintained relationships with provincial governors, foreign kings, and the Senate for a decade. Caligula ruled for less than 4 years and alienated nearly everyone in the imperial system. He was assassinated by his own bodyguards. The edge is Nero. Category 4. Pure madness. This category is what people remember these two men for, and Caligula wins it without contest. He believed he was a god. He held conversations with the moon. He tried to make his horse a senator. He invaded the sea. He carried on incestuous affairs with all 3 of his sisters and openly. Nero was vain, self-destructive, and homicidal, but he never crossed the line into pure delusion. Caligula lived on the other side of that line. The edge is Caligula. Category 5. Cultural staying power. Both men became permanent symbols of imperial madness. But Nero gave us the phrase, fiddling while Rome burns, the most famous metaphor for negligent leadership in any language. Caligula gave us a film so notorious it is still banned in some countries. Both are remembered, both are taught. Call this category a tie. So the category split 2-2 with 1 tie. By the narrowest possible margin, this is the closest matchup in the series so far. Here is the wild card. What if their reigns had been longer? Caligula was assassinated less than 4 years in. If he had survived another decade, Rome would have collapsed under him. The treasury was already empty. The Senate was already terrified. Provincial governors were already plotting. Caligula, at the 10-year mark, might have set off a civil war so catastrophic that the entire empire fragmented a century early. Nero, by contrast, lasted 14 years, and the empire held together because he had competent advisors managing the day-to-day work of governing while he played his lyre. Strip those advisors away, and Nero is Caligula. Give Caligula those advisors, and he is still Caligula, because his madness was not strategic. It was constitutional. The verdict, by a hair, the more dangerous emperor was Caligula. He killed less. He ruled shorter. But his pure unpredictability would have destroyed Rome if he had been given time. Nero burned a city. Caligula would have burned the empire. But here is the part that should haunt you. Both men were the products of imperial Rome's broken family system. Both watched their relatives murdered as children. Both inherited absolute power before they were 30. Both died horribly. And both gave us the warning that has echoed for 2,000 years. The most dangerous thing you can give a damaged person is total power. Caligula was the god who believed his own lie. Nero was the artist who could not stop performing. The winner is Caligula. The one who burned the legend deeper is Nero. Next episode, Al Capone versus Pablo Escobar. The King of Chicago against the King of Medellin. Two men who turned crime into corporate empires. Only one of them ever surrendered.